Hello, guys. I just wanted to do a quick video just to honor this special month of Black History Month. And I wanted to mention a problem that's very common in African households, and it's something that a lot of people suffer from, but it's not really acknowledged in that sense. And a lot of people don't pay attention to it, and it tends to be the root cause of the problems as adults. So we still talk about your inner child. Yes, I am talking about the inner child again. And because I want you to understand how important it is to care for your inner child, to become a healthy adult, to be able to find a healthy partner. This time, I wanted to focus on the inner child of descendants of African households. I wanted to acknowledge the emotional trauma that go through. So a few months back, I did an emotional well-being series for African parents, and there were 18 lessons that I went through, and I wanted to mention some of them and that are very common within the Black community. And I wanted to mention that a lot of us grow up without being connected to our emotions because we get taught that emotions are not good. Emotions should be kept personal, should be kept private, should be kept inside. And we should not show those emotions. And also, in terms of men, they get told that emotions are their weakness, they make them weak. And obviously, nobody wants to be weak. So I wanted to mention that because once you inherited this belief that emotions are not good from a young age, that is going to cause problems when you become an adult because you won't be able to connect to people because emotions are what makes us human, and this is how we connect to one another as well. So I wanted to just mention a few things that I think that key important and I think some people need to know. So my first highlight of the whole series would be that money doesn't equal love. In terms of giving money to your child doesn't mean you love your child, doesn't show that you love your child. Money is something that comes and goes, it's something material, it's something that you use to buy things. But that doesn't show that affection that you have for your child. And as I said, as human, we crave that connection with people, especially with our parents, because when we grow up, our parents are the center of our world. We want to be feel loved, we want to feel cherished, we want to feel safe. And this is the role of our parents. And money is not going to substitute that role. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. People need to know that money is not everything, money is not love. And the second thing I wanted to say, parents, you need to go through your own emotional traumas so you don't pass them to your child. I say that because African households, they go through a lot of trauma, physical, mentally, emotionally, spiritually as well. And they have the tendency to shove that to one side and get on with life. But that doesn't mean that wound is healed. The problem with this is when you don't heal, your traumas will show up through your behaviors. And as children, we copy those behaviors without knowing that those behaviors are damaging in that sense. So please, parents, heal your own emotional trauma. So we as children, we don't have to go through the healing of traumas that we actually inherit. The other thing that is quite common within the African household, parents tend to show, I would say, maybe trying to show tough love through saying negative comments. Instead of saying loving things, they tend to say harsh things. They tend to make remarks about your child, physical, maybe the way they do things, or maybe the way they look. Like, say, for example, if they overweight and you tell them to, maybe you call them fat or look at you, things like that. So they tend to do that a lot. And I wanted to say that all these negative comments that you say to your child, those comments get in their head and they damage their self esteem. And then when they grow up, they're going to have low self esteem. And that's going to stop them from reaching those opportunities in life, maybe work, maybe relationships, because they don't feel confident enough that they will be able to do it. In their mind, they believe because of the way they look, because mom said I was fat, maybe I would not find a husband, or maybe they would not like me in that job, things like that. And parents need to know that all these comments, they turn into beliefs inside your child's head, and that damages their self-esteem. So please, we need to get rid of that habit of doing that. And another point I wanted to make is for parents to stop teaching your daughters to become people pleasers, because you are teaching your daughter that their needs are not important. You're teaching your daughter to please a man or to please others in general, especially men. For African parents, especially men, when you teach your daughter to please men, it means that you teaching unconsciously, you teaching your daughter that her needs are not important. You teaching your daughter that man's needs are more important than hers. So she would never tend her own needs, when she would always feel like she's not worth it enough. Especially if you find a man that is very demanding, she needs to always please him. And if she doesn't feel like she can please that person, she would not feel good enough. And teaching your daughters to become a people pleaser, you setting your daughter to find a man that has narcissistic characteristics. People with narcissistic personalities, they love people pleasers. And then that means you will set your daughter to find a husband that is toxic to her, that is damaging to her, that will emotionally damage her. And I'm sure that's not what you want, but you don't realize by doing that, that's what you unconsciously teaching your daughter, that she is not worth it, that her needs are not important. If your daughter's not happy in that relationship or in that marriage, don't be surprised, because that would be because she developed an emotional wound that makes her feel that it's not good enough, that she always needs to please others. And so don't be surprised if that marriage doesn't actually work, or your daughter is actually unhappy in that marriage. Develop some inner child wounds that she's struggling with. But instead, teach your daughters to find a husband that can meet physical needs, emotional needs, spiritual needs, and mental needs. So not only financially, it's not all about money. And on another note, I wanted to say about sons. Please, parents, teach your sons to be connected to their own emotions. Teach them that emotions don't make them weak. Teach them to connect with emotions, to process the emotions, and to express the emotions, because this is a key important factor that sons from Black households struggle with. And especially when they become adults and they looking for a wife, right? Women in general, they tend to be very emotional beings. So when the man lacks that connection, you can see how wife and husband, they're not going to be able to connect in that sense. So please spare them these problems and teach them how to connect and process and feel the emotions and actually express the emotions, and tell them that it's okay to express the emotions. Also, teach your sons to become not just the leaders at the head of the family, given the whole responsibility. Also, teach them how to lead in an appropriate manner. Teach them your beliefs. Teach your sons to become a trusted leader. Teach them the path of God. Also, give them the skills to become our providers. Give them the tools to be those leaders of tomorrow. Teach them how to set boundaries from a young age. So when they become adults, they can protect themselves from harmful situations. And lastly, the last point of all, I would want to say to parents, not only meet your education needs of your child's got more needs than just going to school and getting a degree. And they have emotional needs. They need that connection from both of you. And also, they need that spiritual guidance as well. We teach them how to connect with God, teach them how to connect with themselves and see the good side of themselves as well. Teach them how to control and process their emotions, how to care for them physically and emotionally and spiritually. But this is what they need, not just money and a career. So they can become healthy adults. And lastly, I want to say that despite the good efforts, a lot of us go through mental health problems. I want you to know that depression is real, anxiety is real. It's not just something that your child has made up or something that your child needs to get on with. And it's not always an spiritual attack. So we need to be able to distinguish between those, and we need to start acknowledging that people do have mental issues that they need addressing. And this is something that is not always acknowledged within the Black community, and it's very hard to acknowledge as well. So this is all my notes for this emotional well-being for Black people. I hope this gives you a time to reflect on things that you want to make better for your children in the future, so you can see your children becoming the best version of themselves. So this is all for today, and I'm hoping to see you on the next video. Bye for now.